From the internet, Jack, how do you combat the strands of racism in the Republican Party? Now, Jack, you used to be what? The Avenger, the Southern Avenger, the Dixie?
There was a controversy about that.
Right.
I've had to wrestle with my own past and some things. This Trump phenomenon, what's bothered me the most is I think it's true what Jeremy said earlier. There are people out there who are openly bigots, who are hateful, and all the. I mean, I don't think anybody that says something that's politically incorrect is necessarily that, as you've noted. But there are a lot of people out there who are straight up hateful. They don't like minorities. They don't like gay people. And I think Trump, and I don't think he intentionally did this. I think he's just being himself, has opened the floodgates. I honestly think, I don't think he's that intentional. I think he's just being himself. But I think people who feel that way feel that they can freely express those things in ways that are not good for our society and not good for the country. I think that's a problem. How do you combat it? You be better than that. I'm a conservative, I'm a libertarian, but I'm positive. I look for the best in individuals. I don't group people together. I don't say, that's the worst thing you can do to demonize human beings, is to group them together and say these people are bad and not judge them by their individual worth and human dignity. So.
Well, a speech Michael Moore could have given. Michael, would you consider making a film on the media and its influence on election results?
Somebody should make that film. I don't know if I'm the person to do it, but actually, I wanted to at the beginning of this election season. I was going to kind of secretly go on a number of these shows, not your show, of course, but other shows, and just kind of show people what happens behind the scenes, how this comes together. And I was just talking to Scott, your producer. That discussion between you and Jeremy that took place, you never see that on the mainstream broadcast networks, where you guys really got into some very serious, you have a serious disagreement.
Wait. HBO is kind of a mainstream broadcast network.
Oh, really? You think so?
HBO?
I don't think HBO is mainstream at all.
Really?
Yes.
Have you seen Game of Thrones?
Have you not? Yeah. You think that's mainstream?
I think we're on a mainstream network. I don't think I do a mainstream show. That's the difference. But that's,
right. Right. Okay, you're the father of dragons.
But let me ask you a broader question. What do you think is the future of documentaries? Because, things have changed in the movie business a lot since you started making them. I don't know in this day and age whether people, they don't even, I see most of my movies when I'm on the road doing stand-up on the weekend in the hotel. And they're like, recently in theaters. And they're like, sometimes they're like, wow, these are big stars. And it never even saw the light of day in a theater because the only movies that seem to open now are about robots punching each other.
Well, let me ask a question back to you. Why haven't you made more documentaries?
Because that's your thing.
No, I'm sorry, but you made your film, your one film is still one of the top 15 largest grossing documentaries of all time.
But I always said I said before it, I said after it, I don't want to be Michael Moore. Only he can do what he does. This is the one topic that I wanted to tackle. Religion is stupid, and there is no God.
Right.
You weren't going to do that one.
Right. Well, you did a great job with it, but
no, you and I want to do a religion movie together.
We shouldn't. Yes. Are we still live on the internet right now?
We're still live. It doesn't matter because we can't get this thing going.
Well, but the truth is, folks, Bill and I do have a secret plan.
Yeah, we do.
And we've not discussed it publicly, and we're not going to release our 28 pages to you, sir.
We want to do a movie called The Kings of Atheism. I thought,
Okay, there it's out. Right?
There it's out.
It's out.
What's the worst that could happen? That we get it made? As opposed to now when we're not?
No, but you just told the Almighty that we're going to do this, and now
we're not going to
you and I have to survive the next 6 months.
I want to. Remember the Kings of Comedy? They did the Kings of Comedy. There was like four African American.
Correct.
And then they did the Latino Kings.
Yes.
For the Kings of Atheism.
Kings of Atheism.
And we can't get anybody we want to sign up for
we are going to have 4 of America's top comedians. I'm going to film it, and we're going to travel through the Bible Belt putting on these shows.
It was so awesome.
I used to be when I was governor, but I'm not anymore.
Oh, are you a delegate?
I'm not a delegate, no.
No, just to watch it on TV?
I'm just a regular citizen.
Wow, I'm very surprised. Will the new voter ID laws being introduced in key states across the country influence the outcome of the election? Fuck yes.
Yes.
Of course.
And like it did in Arizona, as everybody who was watching that
Wasn't that a
5-hour
fiasco?
total fiasco. They went from 200 polling sites to 60 in a heavily Latino county. People had to wait in line for 5 hours.
Wouldn't it be great if the Supreme Court just once went, we got this wrong.
Well,
we gutted the Voting Rights Act. We thought America was better than it was, and it turned out we could not have been more wrong. Is there any argument on the other side?
The problem is that when we talk about voter ID laws, you've got very different laws in different states. Some of those laws, Pennsylvania, for example, that's a really bad law. But then if you're looking at Rhode Island, you're looking at Tennessee, you're looking at other states, they're not all the same. So the problem is when we talk about voter ID laws, you're talking about a bunch of different provisions.
They're all for limiting.
21 states since 2010 have adopted more restrictive, make it more difficult to vote laws. 21 states have. This will be the first presidential election for 16 of those states. They're largely in the South. They're largely trying to affect minorities.
Two quick points. One is this is a solution looking for a problem that doesn't exist. And anytime you're restricting votes, it's bad. But the unspoken truth that's happening in America, and the biggest disenfranchisement we've seen since we were fighting on the Edmund Pettus Bridge and others were fighting on for voting rights, is the disenfranchisement that's going on of people who've been convicted of nonviolent drug offenses. We right now have a country where the drug war is not a war on drugs, it's a war on people, particularly poor people, particularly minorities. And so now you have a nation where you have swing states like Virginia and Florida, where 1 out of every 5 African Americans has lost their right to vote. And so we have this outrageous reality in this country right now where our prison population since 1980 has grown 500%, federal prison population 800%, more people in jail today for nonviolent drug offenses than all the people in jail for 1975, being locked up for doing things the last 2 presidents said they're doing, and now they're in a second-class citizenship, a caste system where they can't get jobs, they can't vote, they can't get Pell Grants, they can't get food stamps, they can't get housing, public housing. They've entered this caste system, and it's an affront to our democracy because basically what we're doing is millions of Americans, we're cutting them out, taking away their voice and their participation in our country. So
yeah, what he said.
Well, look, and you also have conservatives and liberals who are agreeing on this and who are seeking to reform this system.
Not a partisan issue. I'm partnering on legislation with everybody from allies from the Koch brothers to others trying to fight a system that's completely broken.
Absolutely.
One of the greatest tragedies going on in our country right now is that what we are doing to entire communities like the one that I've lived in for the last 20 years is we're devastating these communities, a chance for an African American to be arrested. And by the way, no difference between blacks and whites for using drugs, no difference for dealing drugs, except for some studies show that young white men have a higher rate of dealing drugs than young blacks, but an African American will get arrested for drug crimes about 4 times more than white.
And this actually might make communities more dangerous. That's the really scary thing, because if you want to be tough on crime, it turns out that actually using incarceration too much, you actually change the dynamics in these communities in ways that make them more dangerous for the people who live there, and that is really, really bad.
I used to deal drugs, did you?
I did not deal drugs.
Right there. Anecdotally. Did you ever deal drugs, Gerard?
What's that?
Did you ever deal drugs?
No, but back in my day, I was known as an excellent bagger.
You used to deal drugs?
Oh, in college, yes. Well, yes. I was going to say just pot, but that would be a lie. I mean, when I got out of college, it was just pot. But in college, it was whatever my dealer had.
So you would buy from your dealer. You were like a middleman. You'd buy from your dealer and you'd sell to others.
Oh, that's not very nice. I thought of myself as an entrepreneur, middleman. It was the 70s.
Right.
You know,
no, but it still goes on today. Look, I went to Stanford, and
that's
there was
how
a lot.
I got through college. By the way.
Well, there's a lot of drug use going on.
Wait. You paid your way through college stealing drugs?
Yeah.
That's a
wow.
Yeah. Maybe I'm gangster now.
Right. For the record, still no. The answer still no.
Why? Because I'm white?
Yeah, kind of. A little bit, no. No, you're gangster. Fine, Bill, you're gangster.
More gangster than you. Is Donald Trump, Ian Bremmer, off base in suggesting that the U.S. rethink its involvement in NATO? You know what? Let's ask a different question.
Because I mean, the three of them are different guys, despite the genetic material. I know that's science denial. I realize, but trying to talk to the base. What's so interesting about his campaign is he does not have. I mean, W could at least pretend he was really into campaigning. His father really did like it, although he didn't believe anything he said while he ran for office. But he liked, he once shook the hand of a department store mannequin in New Hampshire by mistake. God only knows what Clinton would have done with it. So there's that whole problem. So I think he's more deliberative, and I think his father was clearly more deliberative ultimately than his son.
Okay. Seth MacFarlane, would you ever consider hosting the Oscars again?
Wow. Sure, why not?
Yeah. But did they not ask you the year after you hosted?
They did.
Yeah, the ratings were good.
Yeah.
Yeah, people cannot be cowed by the virtual vigilantes. We have to make a stand. You did nothing on that show that was the least bit untoward. Oh, we saw your boobs. Was that the thing that the feminists were so upset about? We saw your boobs, we saw your boobs. It was funny, because we do see their boobs.
To me, it was like, I read headlines like the failure of the Oscars, and it's like, well, the ratings were up, and the crowd was great. Like, I've done stand-up where it hasn't worked. That was a great crowd. Where are you getting that didn't work?
Hate. There's just so much hate out there.
It's old news.
All right. Michael McCall, which of the Republican candidates are best on Homeland Security?
Wow.
Well, they're all bloodthirsty knuckle draggers. It's so hard to pick.
Oh, yeah. They all want to, carpet bomb ISIS, right?
Right.
So, can I go to Switzerland on this one? Or be agnostic like you? I just want a commander-in-chief that can stabilize the region, defeat and destroy ISIS, and protect the homeland. I want a strong leader that can do that. I'm looking at you look at my book and the recommendations to protect the homeland. Whatever candidate adopts those recommendations, I will support.
But defeat and destroy ISIS. I know you've spoken against his patient approach, but actually ISIS is quite a bit degraded since we started bombing, and we've dropped like 28,000 bombs on them. They have lost major cities in Iraq, a lot of territory. Even in Syria, they've lost territory. We bombed their money this week. They had to. Yeah, there's good. Who can be against that? They had to cut their salaries by half, and these guys have sex slaves to feed. I mean, that was not.
It's all right. I'm here.
I know. You learn to accept the ooh first. It's like, I'll be covered, and then I'll decide if it's funny. Oh, yeah, okay, all right.
But we made some progress. I was over in Iraq last May, and Ramadi fell. Now, we've taken Ramadi back. That's a positive thing. But when you have, go from 15 to 20 to 30, 35 foreign fighters in the region, that's a problem. When you, over the internet, have a growing ideology, that's tough. We have to have a counter narrative to defeat the ideology, and a drone strike alone is not going to kill it.
No, I mean, that may be what we're going to have to the problem.
It can.
Yes.
It's part of what strikes are important, but ideology is important.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
In your view, is Donald Trump qualified to be commander-in-chief?
That's it.
That's fine. You just ask and answer. Move on.
That was the perfect answer. You can only make it worse now.
The cat threw up in the den. Take care of it.
But if I become his Secretary of Homeland Security, I'll be building that big, beautiful wall and making the Mexicans pay for it.
That's,
okay. There you have it.
You've answered, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Alan Grayson, well, you know what? I'm going to ask you a different question. This is how can you get money out of politics? But you are the one who is going to bring the lawsuit against Ted Cruz?
We do. We go on a tour bus and we show a night. And
now, how many rooms do you have to get in the motel?
We get 2 connecting ones, and It's chaos, but it's fun.
That
I mean, it's exhausting.
took the words right out of my mouth.
You should come along.
I can't wait. Absolutely. Whew, kids. How old is the oldest now?
I have no idea. 12, 10, 7, 5, 3.
Oh, my. So you...
Yeah.
What, and are you done now?
I don't know.
That's right, Catholic. Up to God.
No, I know that's the rule that you think that, like, Jesus is telling us that, but we're
That's
open
what the
to
Pope
it.
says.
Look, I do like 10% of the work. My wife, I love children. There's not a single child that I would trade back in, so if there's another one, there's another one.
10% of the work. You're talking about your sex life?
Yeah.
Gary John...
I mean, I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, sure.
kind of fits, right?
Yeah.
Gary Johnson, do you have a comprehensive plan to combat climate change?
Well, I think that...
Follow that.
Do I have a comprehensive plan? No. I do believe climate change is man-made. I do believe that the free market has really taken it to coal. Coal has been bankrupted.
That's not because of the free market. That's because Obama and the EPA.
No, coal is selling at an all-time low, and even lower than the sales price for coal is natural gas. So no new plants.
But that didn't happen because of the free market.
Well, we're demanding less carbon emission as consumers, and the price of coal, like I say, as low as it is even natural gas is even lower. So no new plants are going to be built.
So you think the free market can handle the problem of global warming?
I think that we as consumers are demanding less carbon emission, and that we're going to get.
But that's sort of inherently weird, right? Like, you have a problem that was caused by the Industrial Revolution, and you're a libertarian, so you want then the thing that caused it to magically uncause it or solve it. Like, what other what other example has ever that happened?
Well, if you look at the model for the future, I think the model for the future is Tesla. Look, you got solar panels on the roof. You're storing.
But is there an example of like a public security or social problem that's been solved by its cause?
You know, this stuff you're saying is just right over the top of my head.
I'd like to say it's kind of a short question.
No, I think it's an excellent question, and I honestly wish the Libertarian Party sounded less like the Republican Party on that issue, which to me is the most important issue. I mean, you know.
Well,
I'd like to come aboard, but
we're 16% of the world's population. 37% of the coal load, or the electrical load right now, is coming from coal. No new coal plants are going to be built. We're going to significantly reduce CO2 emission in this country.
Well, I hope Miami is still here when we do. Louise, who do you think will succeed David Cameron as Prime Minister now that nobody else wants it?
Oh, quite a lot of people want it.
Boris Johnson was going to be the guy.
He's House of Cards style ejected. Right. So I think it'll be a guy called Michael Gove.
Why did that happen?
Probably because Boris was insufficiently committed to actually taking us out of Brexit. Yeah, I think he was having a little bit of a doubt. Yeah, we think he was a little bit lukewarm. So maybe a guy called Michael Gove or a woman called Andrea Leadsom, my dark horse bet. Right. Either one of those two. But it's going to be somebody that's fully committed to Brexit because we're all in for free trade. Yeah. We like the free market.
And who's going to end up on Game of Thrones? Who's
Well, we would have nominated Donald Trump if we could have caught him while he was in Scotland, but he made a quick getaway. So sad.
That's a good. You watch Game of Thrones?
I do.
Okay,
I do.
So like for a family-friendly house like yours, that's not too violent and too dirty and too.
I mean, I'm not making my 3-year-old watch it.
Right.
I'm not having him watch Ramsey Bolton cut off the guy's penis.
I know.
But
that's okay.
We watched that, and I mean, not the young kids.
What's the most out there show you can handle?
That I can handle?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean,
well, I don't want to hear any strong language, Bill. No.
Start the clock.
outweigh the moral concerns about them? Good question. I meant to get that.
It's a great question. And there's always a trade-off. And even if the first order effect is what you want and you achieve it, you always create second, third, and fourth order effects that you're going to have to pay a tariff on sooner or later. So you don't do it lightly. The line I use with regard to drones in our current circumstances, we don't need a switch. We need a dial.
Meaning?
Meaning that there's still times when such an activity is necessary, when we've got an adversary wants to come in over the perimeter wire and kill you, me, our families. When you have a host government unwilling and or unable to act, you need to keep this tool available. But again, it can't always be the default option, because you have to live then with second and third order effects.
I read your article about it. You said it's greatly exaggerated how many civilians are killed.
It is. But the article also says it's necessary, precise, and imperfect. And so you always have to live with those.
But again, the alternative, if you look at us in Iraq 10 years ago, kicking down doors, actual soldiers on the ground getting killed and killing a lot of other Iraqis, I don't know if that's better, but I also think drones probably do create a lot of terrorists.
No, as I said, trade-offs. Let me give you a thought. It's kind of viewed as antiseptic. It's a video game. It's not really warfare. I mean, from our side, the people who operate them, a tremendous emotional strain, because they actually become intimately familiar with the target, with the Reaper over a target, hours, if not days. You see the family. You see the interaction. You see this as a human being. And if that's still the target, he kisses the kids, he kisses the wife, he gets in the SUV, and he gets 400 yards away from the compound where you can now take your first shot consistent with the laws of armed conflict. And you do, even though you've established this great emotional bond. So it's not a free ride for the people tactically. It is, however, very alluring at the political level, because it allows you to do and be seen as doing something without embracing the political risk of putting Americans in harm's way.
Fran Leibowitz, what explains your antipathy toward the Clintons? Yeah, you don't like the Clintons.
No. Am I alone in this?
No.
No.
I mean, I think everybody else has mixed feelings.
Mine aren't that mixed, but...
Right.
Well, I believe that you can only really judge your contemporaries. People younger and older than you were kind of guessing, but with your contemporaries, you can really read them. And Bill Clinton was the first person of my generation, he's older, but still my generation, to be the president, to run for the president. And the second I saw him, I thought, I know this guy, I went to high school with him. I didn't like him then, I don't like him now. So I think my antipathy is that I understand him. I don't like him. To me, he seemed like a Republican. I didn't like his policies. When he signed that welfare bill, I went insane. He was way to the right of me.
A lot of his success was about moving the Democratic Party to the right.
He was a successful, moderate Republican president.
Right.
But I'm a liberal Democrat, so that is why I didn't like him. Hillary Clinton, the same, really. Chelsea Clinton is just I threw in to the mix. It's not her fault, but...
Right. But she's not helping.
Yes, she's not helping the situation. But I'm voting for Hillary Clinton, and I want her to be the president. Because it doesn't matter if you like them. You're not going to have dinner with them.
Michael Eric Dyson, how would you grade Obama as a, quote, black president? Not even sure.
As opposed to the...
I'm not sure what
the
that
other
means.
Obama, the Jewish...
Look, I think he's going to go down as one of the most incredibly successful and consequential presidents in the history of this nation. But what he has done on race will not win him those plaudits. He is the Shaquille O'Neal of presidents. He's got 4 rings. He's an incredibly great president, but he couldn't shoot free throws. It does no good for us to pretend that Shaquille O'Neal could shoot free throws. And in fact, because of that vulnerability, they came up with the hack-a-shack. And they exploited him at the end of the game. Obama's weakness, his hack-a-shack, is race because he was hesitant, he procrastinated, and he was loath to address an issue that ultimately forced him into his bully pulpit with extraordinary eloquence. And the last time I was on the show, when he spoke that eulogy at that church, he was at his best when he was at his blackest, and therefore he showed America something more powerful. So as a president in general, an A. As a president who dealt with issues that are germane to African American people, about a C.
But you choose as your analogy the NBA, the most black-dominated sport.
Yes.
Racist, sir! Jack Hughes! Did you rejoin us? Oh, great. Are pharmaceutical companies to blame for the increased prescription drug overdoses? Sure, let's blame them. Partly.
Yeah, I mean, they're in it for the money, right? I mean, that's...
Exactly.
But
that's what people don't... Yeah, they're in it to save... No, they're in it for the money.
But it's more like our president and the drug czar, Botticelli, right? Their souls are good, I think. I think they're good people who want to do a good job for the American people. And over here, you have these heads of pharmaceutical companies, and they feel like quarter over quarter, year over year, their bottom line is like air that they need to breathe. So if you have somebody who wants to do a good job for the country versus someone who wants to survive, you're not, it's not working.
Wait, I think we should be clear. The drug czar is an awful person. It's an awful office. That should not exist.
Right.
We have a drug policy, and the entire legal infrastructure is set up to treat us as children. It gives pharmaceutical companies more power. It gives the FDA more. It makes it more difficult to come out as an addict or having a substance abuse problem. So the government is implicated here too, and you know what we need to do. We've grown up on many issues, I think, in the country, and we're starting to on drugs. But it's the carceral state that gets in the way of all of this type of stuff. So
whether or not
Portugal legalized all drugs and decriminalized all drugs, and drug abuse rates plummeted, crime associated with drugs fell. Addiction rates fell after they legalized all drugs.
Look, I understand. Look, I'm not an advocate for jail. I'm an advocate for treatment, but. You know, whether or not the office is something...
I can't sit by and somebody say the drug czar is a good person. That's...
No. Whether or not the office is something that should even exist is not something that I'm an expert on, and I don't pretend to talk about it. But I do think he's a good soul, and I do think...
But you're running a treatment center. But you might have an opinion on that.
Well, wait a minute.
It's not exactly from left field
Wait a minute. He's a recovering addict.
Like you.
That's right. So, you know, when you're in it, and these are our people, you've got a vested interest in this.
But this does affect your business.
What part of it?
Having a drug czar, having our policy the way it is in this country, where we punish people instead of treat them. It's actually probably good for your business.
The drug czar is good for my business?
Well, I'm just saying, if the government took over what you do, which they possibly should, yeah, it might be a better system. I'm not saying they could do it better than you. They should probably hire you.
Right.
But we have a terrible system in this country where we criminalize people who should be...
Bill?
What's that?
Do you eat at a lot of government restaurants?
No, if we spent
I don't get the analogy there.
What I'm saying is, like, let me tell you this. If the government takes over both providing drugs as well as treating drugs, it's going to suck.
Well, they're not taking...
That's what free markets are for, and they're very good at it.
The government is providing drugs?
No, I'm saying if you want the government to get involved in...
No, I'm with you on this one. I want decriminalization of drugs.
And socialized medicine.
Well,
take the profit out of health.
Absolutely.
Why do you say no to that?
And take what we spend punishing people and arresting people and prosecuting people and jailing people for drug crimes and spend it on treatment.
Socialized medicine does not innovate in medicine.
The reason we're punishing people...
The English National Health System
The reason we're putting
is
people in jails is because the jails are privatized, and that's
that's true. Of course they are.
What percentage of the American criminal population?
Listen, I just had some guy come to my office that wanted me to invest in a jail.
So don't wait. We are the world's biggest jailer nation.
Absolutely.
Right? And it isn't because of private corporations. 90% of prisoners are in state-owned prisons. We're locking people up. It isn't the profit motive.
Well, it absolutely is the profit motive. The Prison Guard Union is a very powerful union.
I know, and
it lobbies for things like 3 strikes you're out, because to them, prisoners are customers.
Yeah, I agree.
So don't tell me that it's not the profit motive.
What I'm saying is don't say it's private prison.
Well, it is partly private business. Absolutely. Bryan Cranston.
I know him.
What can we expect to learn from your forthcoming memoir?
I
You're writing a memoir.
I wrote a memour, yeah.
You're
It's
60
called
like
A
me
Life
now.
in Parts. So
Yeah.
I have to look back on my life because it's over soon, right?
No.
It was just, it's...
Stop making fun of the exchange student who got stuck in a giant vagina sculpture in Germany this week. He was just an inexperienced man in a foreign land. And by foreign land, I mean vaginas, but the kid shouldn't... But the kid shouldn't feel too bad. How many times does an Asian guy get to say, I was too big? New rule, well, just once, some monster has to go to San Francisco and not destroy the Golden Gate Bridge. Go to Fisherman's Wharf. Try the crabs. This weekend, Godzilla wrecks the Golden Gate Bridge, just like it was wrecked in Pacific Rim, X-Men, Terminator, Superman, Planet of the Apes. It came from beneath the sea. Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus. Leave San Francisco alone. If I wanted to see a 20,000-ton monster destroy a bridge, I'd move to New Jersey. Had to be done, Kevin. Everybody wants Brussels sprouts on their pizza. I know pizza's not the healthiest option for dinner, but the whole point of pizza is that it's not Brussels sprouts. If you want greens with your pizza, do it the old-fashioned way and smoke a joint with the delivery guy. And in a related rule, to the man who asked Domino's for a refund because he burned his penis trying to have sex with one of their pizzas, you must understand two things, sir. One, it's a pizza. The part of you that's supposed to get hard is your artery. And two, refunds don't apply if you come in less than 30 minutes. And finally, new rule. No one can blame me when I say this is a stupid country, when 60% of the adults in it think the Noah's Ark story is literally true. Which is why I'm already sick of seeing the ads for this floating piece of giraffe crap. Although, the movie has been condemned by both Christians and Muslims, so it must be doing something right. And they say it also may lose a fortune for the studio, which would put it in hot water with the Jews, too. New rule, instead of the Winter Olympics having both the luge, where people ride down the ice feet first, and the skeleton, where people ride down the ice face first, they must be merged into one event called Sledding 69. And now that Clay Aiken's opponent in the Democratic primary for Congress died after a, quote, accidental fall down the stairs, the Republican Aiken will face next might want to consider dropping out. Because this is Clay Aiken we're talking about, and apparently Clay Aiken is going to take what Clay motherfucking Aiken wants. Which might explain why every single face he's ever made looks like a guy who just put someone down the stairs. I'm just saying. Well, the homophobic people at the American Family Association who refuse to use this Harvey Milk stamp might want to avoid getting any mail from Finland. That is a real stamp from Finland. It's a real stamp honoring their gay icon Tom of Finland, and it really explains what the brawny paper towel guy was always cleaning up. And someone has to tell Always, the makers of Infinity menstrual pads, that always means infinity. It's like if eternity made a perfume called Forever. Plus, is having an infinite period a good thing? You know, I'm not a lady, but I've never heard one say, these cramps are so great, I wish they'd never end. Well, the parishioners of this Protestant church in Alabama, whose pastor admitted in a sermon that he had sex with church members in the church and while he had AIDS, have to admit, that was a hell of a sermon. He may be a horrible person, but it sure beats hearing about Jonah and the whale for the 1,000th time. To put a cap on our religious discussion, and nobody wants your homemade, handcrafted Christmas present. If your gift involved the use of a glue gun, pinking shears, yarn, or beads, I don't want it. You want to make me something? Make me a garbage can to throw all your other presents in. Oh, look, I made you a tablet case out of an old pair of jeans. Great, now my iPad smells like ass. And speaking of which, Andrew Walls, who works at a Delaware surgical center and went in for a colonoscopy and awoke from anesthesia to find he was wearing women's pink panties because his coworkers thought it would be a funny prank, and who is now suing his coworkers for intentional infliction of severe mental stress, has to admit he is kind of acting like a pink-pantied pussy. Oh, your burger can't be taller than Pharrell Williams' hat. Introducing Jake's Wayback Burger's new 9-patty burger called the Triple Triple. Triple bypass is more like it. Hey, if I want to see 9 patties with soggy buns, I'll go to Riverdance. Neural Kim Jong-un must lend his binoculars to his barber. That haircut doesn't say Supreme Leader of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. It says House Party Sequel. Neural, someone must explain to Nick Wallenda how dangerous and irresponsible it was to tightrope walk blindfolded between 2 Chicago skyscrapers. Nick, it's Chicago. You could have been shot. And finally, new rule, now that Americans are getting wise to the dangers of being spied on by the government, they have to start getting more alarmed about spying on each other. Because if the Donald Sterling mess proved anything, it's that there's a force out there just as powerful as Big Brother. Big Girlfriend. Earl Scott Brown has to appreciate the irony of being this hunky pin-up politician and losing not 1, but 2 Senate races to 2 women in 2 different states. You see, the difference between Scott Brown and Chris Brown is with Scott Brown, women beat him. Neural Andrew Caldwell, who in a video that went viral last week testified in church, "I'm not gay no more," needs to inform his wardrobe. Neural researchers who just did an extensive months-long study to determine that koala bears cling to tree trunks to stay cool have to admit it may also have something to do with them not wanting to fall out of the tree. And finally, new rule, now that Iraq is falling apart again, someone needs to drill it into the American psyche that broken nations are a lot like broken people. You can't fix them. Look at Afghanistan and the lawless tribal areas of Pakistan. Look at Denise Richards and the lawless tribal areas of Charlie Sheen. Lately, there's been so many calls for American intervention in Syria, Ukraine, North Africa, now Iraq again. Maybe America is the one that needs an intervention. Maybe America needs Dr. Phil to come by and ask us, how's that nation building working for you? Finally, new rule, conservatives must be told that President Obama saying he wouldn't let any son of his play pro football is not controversial. It's common sense, like telling your kids not to play in traffic. But on the right, any critique of our holy religion football is blasphemy because real men don't point out facts or consider consequences, and brain injuries are fun. That's what makes a Terry Bradshaw such a character. And a Sarah Palin interview so entertaining. Well, even Eric Cantor has to admit, if you spend your life cutting programs that help children, you deserve to get beaten by a guy named Brad. It's like Ted Cruz losing to someone named Tommy Not an Asswipe. New rule, it's time to admit that couples massages are really stupid. There must be better ways to celebrate your anniversary than lying half-naked 2 feet away from each other while younger, better-looking people rub you. It's just not going to end well, especially if it ends well. And new rule, stop saying it's a black thing you wouldn't understand. I have yet to hear a black thing that I don't understand. Neck tattoos, purple drank, the phrase turned up, I understand it all. Until today, when I found out Steve Harvey has his own dating site called Delightful.com. Finally, a black thing I don't understand. New rule, the women in the sexy zombie or sexy vampire costumes have to tell the women in the sexy corn costume that Monsanto is real and some things are too scary to make sexy. And the parents who put their child in a Richard Simmons costume have to give up on grandchildren. That's just... New rule, Illinois Congressman Aaron Schock has to either ugly it up a little or... Yes, that's a congressman. Yeah. Either ugly it up a little or explain how Lindsey Graham is supposed to get any work done around here. And, well, you know those local news stories where a returning American soldier surprises his kids? Well, now that we're going back to Iraq, we should do some where the soldier surprises a kid in Iraq. Hey, Muhammad, it's me! And this time I promise I'll never leave you again. Major League pitchers can go ahead and wear this new padded cap as protection against line drives to the head. But when they give up a home run, they have to say, "Aw, rats." And new rule, now that 1 in 5 people in the UK admitted they would have sex with a robot, inflatable glove dolls must stop looking so surprised. They do look surprised, Steve. And order. Well, someone from the Russian government must reassure Russian goalkeeper Igor Akinov, who let a critical World Cup ball go right through his hands, that there are no hard feelings. In fact, President Putin wants to buy you a drink. No, really, what's your poison? New rule, the Republican prankster who keeps following Hillary Clinton around in an orange squirrel costume has to stop. First of all, she's not even running for president yet, and secondly, why a squirrel? Oh, that's right, because Republicans like to gather all their nuts in the fall. New rule, and finally, new rule, the Sparklets guy must tell me why nobody talks around the water cooler anymore. But wait, I think I know why. It's because as a culture, we don't have enough in common anymore. And that's because the internet, which was supposed to unite the world, has become too adept at serving us personalized content. Do you know what I saw on Yahoo's front page this morning? No, you don't, because mine isn't the same as yours. People get news feeds now that just spit back customized stories based on what we've clicked on in the past. So I, for example, might see a lot of stories about pot, American history, and, of course, Christian mingle. Whereas Ted Nugent just gets ads for Prozac and bullets. Speaking of which, new rule, let's agree to drop this "we're going to pursue ISIS to the gates of hell" talk. I get weirded out when Biden starts talking like a character in The Expendables. Besides, threatening jihadists with hell just gets them hornier. It's like threatening a dog with bacon.
Are there any Italians in ISIS?
You're saying Italian ISIS?
Italian ISIS.
There you go. It was laying there.
Yeah. Somebody had to do that joke.
And finally, new rule, before they lose the midterms any worse than they already are, Democrats must learn how to speak to the one group of people who actually vote in the midterms, Caucasians. You know, we hear a lot about the Republicans' inability to reach minorities. But what about the converse? Have Democrats lost the art of talking to whitey? The election is 18 days away, and Democratic candidates are about as popular as a Liberian travel agent. This despite the fact that unemployment, the deficit, and gas prices are all down, Obamacare is working, and we're raining fire on 7 countries full of America haters. Gosh, what do white people want? God is dead, kids, so watch your back. New rule, when you're invited to the president's State of the Union address, wear your good bandana. Nice to see you observing the dress code, Cletus. But, you know, if Beyonce wore that, they would say she was bringing down America from within. But somehow everybody is cool with this 1840s gold prospector sweating goose grease into the stars and stripes. All because his homophobic daddy invented a whistle that makes ducks horny. New rule, as long as the U.S. is helping to train the army in Chad, let's start by toning down the choreography. Unless you're a rockette, this high leg kicking business never ends well. A black man who can kick that high shouldn't be on maneuvers in Africa. He should be on tour with Britney. New rule, the Italian nun who claims she didn't even know she was pregnant before she had a baby boy this week has to give us a little more credit than that. You think Catholics are that stupid? Why not just tell us you're a virgin? And finally, new rule, Democrats need to stop despairing about the gloomy midterm predictions and realize there's actually a glimmer of hope, and it has to do with suicide. Let me finish. For decades now, liberals pushed the issue of assisted suicide, and it got nowhere. Then they started to call it aid in dying, and its approval shot up 20 points, and it's now legal in 5 states. That's the power of language. And if they took the word dying out altogether and called it early retirement, it would probably win over 10 more states. If they called it death by chocolate, they could get all 50. And by the way, whoever is behind the fake Apple ads claiming you can recharge your new iPhone by heating it in a microwave, all you're doing is ruining some people's phone and breaking their microwaves, and then how are they going to dry off the cat? Trust me, Apple fans, this doesn't work. Although you can recharge your phone by shoving it up your ass while you stick your finger in a light socket. That does work. You can criticize Margaret Lavatt, the dolphin researcher, who admits that in her attempt to teach dolphins human speech, she sometimes masturbates them. But you have to admit, if that doesn't get them talking, nothing will. Also, I think in this study we learned much more about women, that even after bringing a sea creature to orgasm, they still want to know, what are you thinking? Well, since we imported 4 billion pounds of food from China last year, I don't need to know that a Chinese Walmart once sold mislabeled donkey meat. That's what it was supposed to be. That was actually ground up fox. If I can't trust Walmart brand, Chinese-made, fox-free donkey burgers, what can I trust? Walmart donkey burgers. One bite and you'll say, this tastes like ass.
Start the clock.
New rule, don't vote Kate Gosselin off Dancing with the Stars. Of course she can't dance, but if we keep her surrounded by gay people, she also can't get pregnant. New rule, if I can't suck your milkshake through a straw, it's not a milkshake, it's a glass of ice cream. Now blend it again. Welcome to Baskin-Robbins. My name is Kevin. And this time, give it a minute. Hey, you're in a pink and brown smock. It's not like you have a date later. New rule, when your crash investigation reveals that your plane stalled at 38,000 feet and then fell out of the sky in a 3-minute-long plunge of terror, don't tell anyone. Really, you want to make us feel safer? Just say the Arabs did it. New rule, stop saying the TSA had no business patting down that 6-year-old girl in New Orleans. Sure, to the layman, she looks like just another cute first grader, but to a highly trained TSA agent, she has all the signs of a terror baby. The shyness, the fidgeting, the slight aroma of animal crackers. Go ahead and complain, ACLU do-gooders, but don't come crying to me when little Ashley here takes over a 747 and crashes it into Legoland. New rule, to save time, from now on, just tell me the countries we're not bombing. Last week, President Obama sent his flying killer robots to bomb Somalia just to make Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Libya, and Yemen jealous. You know, if your robots are attacking more places than you can keep straight, you're not a Nobel Peace Prize winner, you're a transformer. New rule, the members of Tiger Woods' harem have to stop fighting each other. This week, number 3 had some harsh words for number 11. And 11 wasn't having it, so she told 3 to kiss off just the way 14 told off 19 a couple of weeks ago. Girls, relax. If you can't sue, there's always Playboy. And if you can't do Playboy, there's Maxim. And if you can't do Maxim, there's a sex tape. And if you can't do a sex tape, what the hell were you doing with Tiger Woods in the first place? New rule, stop talking about gun rights. Guns don't have rights. Think about it. Do you really think if guns had rights, there'd be so many of them in Alabama? New rule, throwing a guy's corpse off a boat isn't a burial at sea. It's fun, but let's not ruin a beautiful week with bullshit. I promise if the CIA doesn't call it a funeral, the ACLU won't call it posthumous waterboarding. New rule, you know you're a badass when you kill 9 Somali pirates in the afternoon and you don't even mention it at the party that night. That's the difference between Obama and Mitt Romney. Obama kills pirates. Romney tries to convert them. New rule, yes. Yes, you can determine your intelligence through those pop-up Internet IQ ads. If you click on them, you're an idiot. New rule, now that I, as an American taxpayer, am a majority shareholder in General Motors, they must bring back the tail fin. Who doesn't like fins on cars? They're like the tits of the auto world. They're retro, they look cool, and at the rate the polar ice caps are melting, we're going to need fins. New rule, critics must stop saying that Jay Leno's new show is too much like his old show. What did they think the new show was going to be? Jay and Kevin Eubanks move to a small fishing village and solve mysteries? New rule, stop telling me to have a safe flight. Like I have some control over that. Thanks, and you don't get struck by lightning. New rule, if you're one of the richest 1% who just bought the new $8 million iPad 2 that is made from solid gold, 65 flawless diamonds, and slivers of Tyrannosaurus Rex bone, then a representative of the Wall Street protesters gets to come to your penthouse and shove it 99% up your ass. New rule, stop asking the Supreme Court to rule on stuff they don't understand. Last week it was email, now it's violent video games. What are they going to take up next? Whether you can follow someone on Twitter who's defriended you on Facebook? Sexting? These justices are old. Judge Kennedy's idea of cyber sex is tapping out who's your daddy in Morse code. New rule, former Klan Grand Wizard David Duke is not allowed to run for president again. Hate to break it to you, Dave, but times have changed. The Republican Party has changed. And let's face it, you're just way too liberal for them now. New rule, if you're going to make an updated, more realistic Footloose about a high school kid in rural Kansas who's fighting for his right to dance, he should probably be gay. And he's not fighting for the right to dance, he's fighting for the right to learn about evolution without also having to learn about how Jesus rode dinosaurs. New rule, as long as they're thinking of dropping Saturday service, the post office can go ahead and just close altogether. Since about 1998, no one in America has gotten anything in the mail but catalogs, bills, Christmas cards, and anthrax. And I hate Christmas cards. At least when you get anthrax, you don't think, oh shit, now next year I have to send them anthrax. New rule, Jerry's kids deserve better entertainment. You know, it's bad enough you have a disease. You also have to spend Labor Day watching Lee Greenwood and Kathy Rigby? And that was just the first hour. By 3 a.m., there was a stagehand playing Lady of Spain on wine glasses. You know, I love Jerry, but he's going to be awfully embarrassed when science finally proves my theory that muscular dystrophy is caused by prolonged exposure to Tony Orlando. New rule, if you're a current governor and in the process of running for president, you prove to everyone back home what a dipshit you really are. Rick Perry. They don't have to take you back. Think of it as a late-term abortion. That's right, Rick Perry. Texas can secede from you. New rule, you're not supposed to have your ghostwriter at your book signing. Famous baby maker Bristol Palin took out an ad on Craigslist that said, please join Bristol Palin and her ghostwriter in a special book signing. Way to shatter the illusion there, Bristol. Even Snooki is smart enough to pretend she wrote her book. New rule, white trash is as white trash does. According to the recent Vanity Fair article, Sarah Palin's baby is named Trig Paxson Van Palin after the band Van Halen. So let me get this straight. The first name is the place you had sex, and then the middle name is the 80s hair band you were doing it to? What's the next baby going to be named? Hot Tub Whitesnake?